A pleasant good evening, viewers. My name is Javon Wilson, coming to you live out of the beautiful British Virgin Islands for 284 Media. Now, on the 22nd of November, that is this weekend, we will mark the 72nd anniversary of the 1949 Great March. This was a historic demonstration which took place in Rotong, and even by today's standards, viewers, is of great significance to the history and autonomy of these Virgin Islands. Now, viewers, the demonstration led by the territory's heroes, Theodore Faulkner of Anegada, was also joined by national heroes of the day, namely Mr. Isaac Glanny Fonseca and Carlton de Castro. Would get this, over 1,500 British Virgin Islanders as they marched through the streets of Rotong to the Commissioner's office in protest of issues adversely impacting the territory. Now, viewers, in a process of time, it was the flame that led to the social, constitutional, political, economical, and social development of this territory. And the BVI, like pre-1949, now finds itself in a very similar and critical juncture. And so as we continue to cement a way forward, the Virgin Islands Communal Association is now hosting a reenactment of the 1949 March this Sunday. So tonight we speak with two faces behind the highly anticipated event. We are speaking with Bishop John Klein and also Mr. Elroy Turnbull. Now, viewers, right after this commercial break, we get into it, so stick with us.
You value traditions.
Today,
You value music. You value education. Family.
I love you.
Service.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love. Life. At Popular, we're committed to you and everything our community values. For the things you value the most, count on us. Popular.
Viewers, welcome back to 284 Media. Now, as promised tonight, a very important conversation regarding the reenactment of the great 1949 March. Tonight, we are joined by Bishop John Klein, social activist within our community, and also Mr. Elroy Turnbull. He is the former Chief Education Officer, as well as a member of VICA. Gentlemen, welcome to 284 Media.
Javon, good to be with you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I want to begin with the fact that this demonstration that we know to be the Great March of 1949 was truly the catalyst for political development in our territory. Of course, we know that also led to the evolution of what we now know as a modern BVI. So if you can, please, in a capsule, for persons who may not be familiar with that particular point in our history, can you speak to what would have led to that great march that saw over 1,500 persons taken to the streets to protest certain conditions? Anyone can go.
I'll let Mr. Turnbull take that. He's more the historian than I am.
Okay, basically, that arose due to discontent on the part of Mr. Faulkner, who came to Tortola and was joined by Mr. Fonseca and Mr. De Castro. In general, what they were seeking is change. They were not happy with the status quo as it was. So basically, they were seeking change. And so they got 1,500 people to join them in this protest.
Wow. So coming out of this protest, clearly lots of significant changes for the Virgin Islands. One of the things we saw as a direct effect was the legislature being restored. I want to speak to that. What has been the impact of having that legislature restored, and how has that in particular helped the Virgin Islands?
Well, I think to add to what Mr. Turnbull said, it is important to understand that at that time, the Virgin Islands were basically governed, I think, out of the Leeward Islands, Antigua. And so many of the decisions that were made either by the representative from the UK or out of Antigua. So these men sought self-governance. Like, you know, he said, let me read something to you what Theodore Faulkner said to the governor 73 years ago. He said, we have the desire to decide our own local affairs and with our own selves. He said, we have outgrown the undesirable stage where one official or an official clique make decision for us. He further told the governor, he said, we are asking the privileged to decide our own money, how our own money is spent, and how we shall be, and what shall be our own presidential law and politics. So in effect, what he was saying, you know, we are mature enough at this point in our history to make some decision for ourselves and how to spend our own money. And I think what that meant for the BVI then was what sparked us now into a more modern political system. The parliamentary system which we have now is a result of that action taken on that day.
Excellent. Now, we now have a holiday, Mr. Klein and as well as Mr. Turnbull, and the government, I guess, culturally guided and of course to, in some way or the other, preserve that critical part of our history. So it's important to give us this holiday. It's going to be November 22nd. It's going to be called the 1949 Great March and Restoration Day. I want us to get into the importance of not only having this as a national holiday, but also what it means for the future of the Virgin Islands.
Well, I think what is important as a result of the reenactment is for people to remember our history. That at one time, the privilege and opportunities we have today, they did not exist, and we need to be grateful for that. And this the Great March of 1949 is a step in terms of us, BVI, looking towards a greater future. So in essence, we want to tell people, listen, we were not as free as we were, we didn't have all these opportunities, but due to these men and their fight with the British, so to speak, we have made some improvements. And that was the catalyst for all improvements we have had over the last 70 years.
You are right, Mr. Turnbull, and you too are a member of VICA. I just want you to tell our viewers a little bit about the organization and also why persons should come out this Sunday, November 21st. If you can give just a little bit of information about the actual event and what persons can expect by way of attending this Sunday.
Well, VICA, first of all, stands for Virgin Islands Communal Association. It's a non-profit group, and its main aim or goal is to bring a kind of consciousness to British Virgin Islanders and to let them see and work together towards the future of where we want to go. And the members of VICA, they're all BV Islanders, and in my opinion, I think it is a good thing to work towards the future in terms of making possible changes. I think the match hopefully will get people to appreciate our history more, that we have a vibrant history that we should all be proud of. And so VICA is sponsoring this event for the purpose of educating and letting people know where we were and letting people to see how we have come from there to where we are now.
Yes.
And that's an important step in the whole thing. The match, hopefully, as planned, would lead from the bandstand in Rotown to the Sir Oliver George's Plaza. And it's going to be a peaceful match. And we think that people would really join us as we move through the streets of Rotown.
And that is going to be at 4 p.m. Now, I'm sitting here as you revisit the history of the Virgin Islands, and remembering, when I came across a piece of information that says at some point in BVI history, this territory was regarded as a bird sanctuary. And I look at the efforts of territory leaders like Mr. Faulkner and Mr. DeCastro and so on, and we recognize that, like you mentioned, the BVI has certainly come a long way, but we are being presented with quite a number of obstacles at this particular juncture. Also, I am also remembering Miss Ayanna Hall just recently at Sunday's church mentioning back then 1,500 persons marched, and at that time we had a population of about 5,000. That is a significant percentage taken to the streets to say we are standing against this. What is the expectation this Sunday as it relates to numbers, as it relates to persons truly taking this seriously? What is VICA, as well as, of course, supported by the government of the Virgin Islands, expecting from the BVI public on Sunday?
Well, I would say that we go in with hopeful expectations, obviously, that persons will come out on Sunday. One of the things that I think Mr. Turnbull has said is that we as a people, we have not done a very good job telling our story, preserving and letting generations before us and even some of the current generation know what and why and how we are where we are. We are more than sun, sea, financial services. There was a fight, there was a struggle to get us to where we are. And I believe that it's important for us to tell this story. So we march for the preservation of our history. We march as an educational tool. We march to let persons know each step we take in that march is not just a step remembering, but a step forward towards the future. All of us want to see a Virgin Islands, I believe, at least most of us want to see a Virgin Islands, where we don't represent just a decolonized country where we just have, a governor in charge of our civil servants, and we still have some of those old colonial traps around us. We still have the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office telling us how much money we can borrow and how we can't borrow, and all of those things are attached to us being a dependent territory. So as we march, like Mr. Turnbull said, it's not a protest march. We're not protesting against anything. We're not protesting against the UK. We're not protesting against the present government. We are marching in solidarity and unity and remembrance of what Mr. Faulkner and Mr. DeCastro and the other gentlemen have done to help us to make progress over the last 73 years. And we pray that people will come out, BVI landers and non-BVI landers alike, in solidarity with us. And here's why I say non-BVI landers, because this country helps to provide, it's like a bread basket, one of the bread baskets of the Caribbean. And I think any of us can appreciate to support and to help to encourage the island or the country that helps you to make a living for yourself. So we don't just encourage just BVI Islanders. We want the whole BVI community to come out and say, we respect you. We want to remember with you for what your ancestors have done, and we stand with you in your progress and moving forward even towards greater self-determination.
And that is, I absolutely agree with that, as a very strong and cohesive message. Collectively, we're all able to benefit from the way that was paved and the autonomy that the BVI now celebrates. I want to touch on the fact that you just mentioned it is not a protest. But, when I look at both of you, you serve not only as activists, but I would say also in some way culture bearers in this territory. And I really want to double back to the fact that, in my opinion, this territory is now being presented with some possibly damaging elements. One can look at different things. Some may look at, for example, the COI. Many persons are worried that this could retard our efforts thus far in our walk to autonomy. Do you believe, or is it your opinion that our autonomy is under threat? And if so, in what ways?
Personally, I don't believe. I'll go first and let Mr. I don't believe that. I think from watching the COI, it presents to us, what it did for me looking on is it highlighted some of the threats, but also some of the opportunities. It showed in our governance system some of our weaknesses where they need to be strengthened.
Yes.
And so I believe that there's some good that can come out of it, because if we're going to speak about self-governance and self-determination and independence, whatever word you want to use to describe that, it is important for us to strengthen our political and governance structures. And I think this forensic audit or inquiry, you want to call it, about how we do things, why we do things, what need to be strengthened, what need to be thrown out, and all of that is an exercise that will benefit the Virgin Islands. I don't see our political system or our governance system so much under threat.
Okay.
I see it as a result. We have an opportunity to strengthen it, make it better as we march into the future.
Excellent.
What do you say, Mr. T?
Well, I agree with you, partly, but I would say this. I think the previous governor, Jasper, in his terms in calling a commission inquiry,
Yes.
painted a terrible picture of us.
Okay. Yes.
And initially, I personally thought when the commission inquiry was set up, that the main goal was to take us over like what they did to a number of other Caribbean countries. But as I listen to more and more of the commission inquiry, I get the sense that there is some desire on the part of the UK to work with us, as opposed from, so to speak, conquering us. There's a thing to work with us in terms of these problems. So I am not that negative anymore about the commission inquiry, though I'm cautious.
Cautious, yes.
Cautiously
And I
optimistic.
think and like you asked the question, Javon, our democracy as an independent territory with self-governance, as long as we remain as what they call a dependent, what they call us now, an overseas territory of the United
Yes.
Kingdom, will always be in question, because it still looks and feels in a way like colonialism. So what we need to do is to continue to build ourselves to the point, have the necessary conversations, make the necessary changes that will get us to where we want to be. That's not an overnight thing, but it's a necessary and a desired thing by Virgin Islanders.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And as we begin to close out, I know, again, I'm going to remind viewers of the date, the time, and the place to be. But as we begin to close out, what steps do you think we can take as a territory to ensure that the next generation is aware of not only the restoration of the Legislative Council, but how it has impacted our growth and development as a territory? And of course, to ensure that we never truly forget our history. When I think about culture, BVI, culture in particular, there's an African term that comes back to me, Sankofa, and it really means to go back and get. And I think oftentimes in order for us, or what hinders us from moving forward progressively, is not knowing whence we came from. So I think it's very important that the next generation can not only be knowledgeable of, but really capitalize on that history. What can we do as a territory to ensure that this history is preserved?
Well, I think I'm trying to think of the right name of it, the Junior what it was, junior legislature, what's the right name? That they have where they have
The youth parliamentarians?
youth parliament, correct.
Yes.
I think that's an important step towards the future in terms of having information about where we were and where we want to go. And therefore, if we can also have some of that in the schools in terms of preparing the students for the future,
Yes.
I think we would have done extremely well. But that youth parliament is a very important tool to taking us further and forward.
Excellent. Passing the torch. Anything you'd like to add, Pastor Klein?
For sure. Education, getting our youth involved, the conversation like these, dialogue, it must be us conversation. It must be government speaking, social organization putting the information out there. I would like to see next year that this holiday be remembered in a significant way from the bottom up and from the top down. Schools are involved, churches are involved, government is involved, and all of the general public involved. And let us remember, I mean, there's nothing more important in the United States than 4th of July, which they celebrate for their independence. And every country have their pride and have steep in their blood these kinds of things. So the more we can tell our story to the next generation, the more we put them in a position to not only fight, not only stand courageously for what has been fought for, but to improve on it and tell their children and their children's children.
All right, and that is how we preserve history. Bishop Klein, Mr. Turnbull, I want to thank you so much for the work that you are doing in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, to ensure that history is preserved in the Virgin Islands. And of course, I want to give you this opportunity to close out, to invite our viewers and wider BVI to come out to this march on Sunday.
And one last thing before you go.
Okay.
I just want to thank Bishop Klein, who will be a guest speaker on that day.
Okay.
So we also encouraging people to come out and hear him as well. Thank you. And the other speakers too.
All right, viewers, again, the 1949 Great March, you're seeing the flyer on the screen there. It says, "This is why we march." This is a reenactment of the historical, the largest demonstration ever really to take place in the Virgin Islands. It changed the course of VI history. And by coming out this Sunday, viewers, you too can be a part of not only reenacting that change, but also possibly creating a new and better and stronger trajectory for these beautiful Virgin Islands. So I'll see you then Sunday, 4 p.m. sharp. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.